The training deck of the Galactic Defense Academy became quiet as Instructor Kale Thresh pointed toward the human standing in the center of the sparring circle. Lieutenant Maya Cross stood with her hands behind her back. Her face showed nothing. The tall Velcrin instructor was 3 meters high. His mouth parts clicked in a way that might have been laughter. "This is what your enemies will look like," Kale Resh told the students watching. "Soft, weak, slow." His 4 eyes looked across the crowd. "The humans joined the Galactic Council only 6 cycles ago. They come from a death world, yes, but do not let their stories fool you. Their bodies break easily." Cadet Tornval stepped forward. He was a young Velcrin warrior with bright blue scales. He was the best fighter in his class. He knew this. Everyone knew this. The scanner weapon he carried was set to training mode. It would not cause lasting injury, but the energy bolts still hurt very much. Maya watched how the cadet held his weapon. She saw how his weight leaned slightly forward on his legs. He was eager, too sure of himself. She had seen that look many times during her years as a Marine Corps instructor back on Earth. This was before the aliens came, before everything changed. "Whenever you are ready, Cadet," she said quietly. Tornval did not wait. His species had fast reflexes, very fast. He used them now. The scanner bolt screamed from his weapon at a speed that most species could not see with their eyes. Maya's hand moved. The energy bolt stopped just before it hit her face. Her fingers closed around it. The bolt crackled and spit energy as she held it. The training deck systems hummed as they dealt with the sudden power discharge. She held the bolt for a moment. She felt its energy trying to escape through her grip. Then she crushed it into sparking pieces that faded into nothing. "Earthborn," she said. Her voice carried across the shocked silence. "Try harder." The deck erupted into noise. Students from many different species began talking, chirping, and making loud sounds in their various languages. Several instructors moved forward. Their scanning devices were already out and pointed at Maya. Kale Thresh's mouth parts had frozen mid-click. Tornval stared at his weapon as if it had betrayed him. "That is not possible. The bolt moves at 47% light speed. No living being can do that." "Your weapon is designed for training," Maya interrupted. "That means it sends out an electromagnetic pulse exactly 0.03 seconds before it fires. More than enough time." She tilted her head. "Your stance also showed where you would aim. You were aiming for center mass. That is textbook. But it is predictable." Commander Vex Talon pushed through the crowd. The old Korthian was a veteran of 17 wars. His scaled eyebrow ridges drew together as he studied Maya. "Lieutenant Cross, that display was either the most clever trick I have seen in 40 years of service, or you have just changed our understanding of human abilities." His voice was careful. "Which is it?" Maya met his eyes steadily. "With respect, Commander, it is neither. That was basic Marine Corps Level 2 combat response. Any human with proper training could have done the same." The training deck fell silent again. Vex Talon's pupils got bigger. This was a sign of shock in his species. "Basic training?" "Yes, sir." Maya pointed to the students watching. "Your testing methods are based on galactic standard biology. You test for what most species can do. But Earth is not a standard world. Our gravity is 37% above galactic average. Our atmosphere is harsh enough that most of you need breathing help. Our predators—" She paused. "We do not have many predators anymore, Commander. We killed most of them 10,000 years ago." Instructor Kale Thresh had recovered his calm. "You are claiming that all humans have these abilities? That is absurd. We reviewed your species when you joined the Council. You are classified as Category 3 sentience, standard mammalian development, nothing special beyond your world's hostile environment." Maya smiled. Something in that smile made several nearby students step back. "Tell me, Instructor, who did that assessment?" "The ruling caste diplomatic corps, naturally. They—" Kale Thresh stopped. His mouth parts went very still. They met with our diplomats, Maya finished for him. Politicians, office workers, people who spend their lives in climate-controlled buildings, people who have not run a mile since school, people who have never had to survive anything more dangerous than a budget meeting. She looked around at the students. They did not meet soldiers. They did not meet the men and women who grow up running in 1.3 gravity, who train in conditions that would kill most of you in minutes, whose ancestors survived 200,000 years on a planet that was actively trying to kill them. Commander Vex Talon's expression had changed from doubt to something else: calculation, concern. Lieutenant, are you telling me that Earth has been hiding its capabilities from the Council? No, sir. I am telling you that the people who represented us did not know what our capabilities were. There is a difference. Maya's voice softened slightly. Most humans do not know either. They live peaceful lives, never push themselves, never need to. But those of us who serve, who train, who prepare for war— She pointed at the still sparking remains of the scanner bolt. We remember what we came from. A new voice cut through the tension. Then perhaps a more complete demonstration is needed. Admiral Drathar had entered the training deck without fanfare. The ancient Shirel warrior was a living legend, one of the few beings to have served in all 3 Dominion wars. Her crystal-like shell bore the scars of many near-death experiences. Her compound eyes missed nothing. "Admiral on deck!" Vex Talon called out sharply. The entire group snapped to attention. Drathar waved a dismissive limb. At ease. I was watching from the command gallery. Her many-faceted eyes fixed on Maya. Your performance was interesting, Lieutenant Cross, but one successful catch does not prove ability. It could still be luck, enhanced reflexes, even hidden technology beneath your skin. I welcome any examination, Admiral, Maya replied. Oh, I plan to conduct one. But first— The Admiral turned to address the students. Let me tell you all a story. 60 years ago, when I was a fresh commander, we met a species called the Krellian swarm. They were parasitic, aggressive, and they bred fast. A single Krellian soldier was dangerous. 100 were unstoppable. We lost 6 colony worlds before we found a weapon that could kill them well. She paused. Do you know what that weapon was? The students remained silent. Even the instructors seemed uncertain. Fire, Drathar said simply. Heat weapons above 600 degrees Celsius. The Krellians had never evolved around fire. Their biology could not cope. Her eyes returned to Maya. Every species has advantages forged by their world. The Velkrin have speed. The Korthians have armor. The Shirel have adaptive biology. And the humans, it seems, have something we have underestimated. Endurance, Admiral, Maya said quietly. And adaptability. We are not the fastest or the strongest or the smartest, but we are persistent. We do not quit. We cannot quit. It is not in our biology. Admiral Drathar's mouth parts spread in what might have been a smile. Then let us test that persistence. Commander Vex Talon, clear the training deck. I want a full tactical assessment of Lieutenant Cross's abilities. Every test we have. Every simulation. She looked back at Maya. If you are correct, if your species truly has these abilities throughout your population, then we need to know, because the Council is about to enter its most dangerous period in 3 centuries. Ma'am, Vex Talon asked, the Varan Collective has begun moving its border fleets. Intelligence suggests they are preparing for a major attack within the next cycle. The Admiral's voice was grim. We are going to need every advantage we can find. Even if that advantage has been standing under our noses, wrongly classified as Category 3 standard mammals. Maya felt her pulse quicken. She had known this moment was coming. Earth's governments had decided to send military observers to the Galactic Defense Academy for this reason, the carefully planned reveal. the demonstration of abilities that would shift humanity's position in the Council from junior partner to potential game changer. "I am ready, Admiral," she said. "Good." Drathar turned to leave, then paused. "One more thing, Lieutenant. That cadet you embarrassed, Tornval?" "Yes, ma'am?" "He is the son of the Velcrin Primus. His pride is tied directly to his family's honor." The Admiral's eyes glittered. "You have just created either a dangerous enemy or a valuable ally. Choose your next words carefully." Maya looked across the training deck to where Tornval stood. His scales had turned dark with shame and anger. Their eyes met. "Permission to train with the cadets, Admiral?" Maya asked, not breaking eye contact with the young Velcrin. "If I am going to prove human abilities, I should probably demonstrate human teaching methods as well." Admiral Drathar's laugh echoed across the deck. "Granted. Try not to break too many of them, Lieutenant. We need them functional for graduation." As the Admiral left and the deck began to clear, Maya walked over to Tornval. The young cadet stiffened. He clearly expected a lecture or, worse, pity. Instead, Maya extended her hand in the human gesture of greeting. "Your form is excellent, and your reaction time is impressive, but you are used to being the fastest thing in the room. That makes you sloppy. Want to learn how to fight something faster?" Tornval stared at the offered hand. His training and his pride fought visibly across his features. Finally, slowly, he reached out and clasped her hand in his clawed grip. "Yes, instructor," he said. Maya grinned. "Good, because what I just did, that was me going easy on you. Earth's combat doctrine does not believe in fair fights. We cheat, we adapt, and we win." She released his hand. "Tomorrow morning, 0500 hours, main gymnasium. Bring your squad. I am going to show you what humans call Hell Week." "Hell Week," Tornval repeated. His translator struggled with the concept. "You will understand soon enough." Maya turned to address the remaining students. "That invitation extends to anyone here. If you want to know what makes Earthborn different, show up tomorrow. Fair warning, though. Our training methods are considered cruel by galactic standards." "How cruel?" asked a small Pixith cadet. Her antennae shook nervously. Maya's smile was sharp. "On Earth, we have a saying, 'What does not kill you makes you stronger.' Most species take that as a metaphor." She paused. "We do not. The medical bay of the Galactic Defense Academy was built to handle 47 different species. Dr. Lenmora was a Pixith physician with 20 years of experience. She thought she had seen every possible type of living biology. Lieutenant Maya Cross was about to change that. "Your bone density is absurd," Lenmora muttered. She was reviewing the scan results for the third time. Her antennae twitched with frustration. "This reading suggests your skeleton could handle impacts that would shatter Corthian combat plating. That cannot be correct." Maya sat patiently on the examination platform. She wore standard medical monitoring equipment that looked almost funny against her small frame compared to other species. "It is correct, Doctor. Humans evolved in high gravity. Our bones needed to be stronger. But this goes beyond adaptation for gravity." Lenmora pulled up a comparison chart. "Look, your muscle density is 48% greater than galactic mammalian average. Your heart and blood system operates at pressure levels that would cause bleeding in most species. And these readings from your cells," she trailed off, moving the holographic display. "It is as if every cell in your body is pushed to maximum energy production." Admiral Drathar was watching from a corner of the bay. She leaned forward with interest. "What does this mean, Doctor?" "Mean?" Lenmora's voice rose slightly. "Admiral, if these readings are accurate, Lieutenant Cross's body operates at an efficiency level 70% above what we classified as the human baseline. Either our first assessment was very wrong, or she has been genetically enhanced beyond legal council limits." "I have not been enhanced," Maya said calmly. "This is just what proper military conditioning looks like for a human." We have been doing it for thousands of years, long before we knew genetics existed. Commander Vex Talon was also present. He looked doubtful. You are claiming that simple exercise created this level of change? Not simple exercise, military training. Maya asked for permission to stand. Lenmora allowed it with clear reluctance. Doctor, what is the heaviest load a Pixith can carry? We are not a strength-based species, Lenmora replied defensively. Perhaps 30% of body weight for short distances. Velcrin? Maya asked. Standard Velcrin warrior, approximately 1.2 times body weight, Vex Talon supplied. Corthian. 1.8 times body weight, the commander admitted. We are among the strongest standard combat species. Maya nodded. Human soldiers are expected to march 20 kilometers carrying equipment weighing 50 to 70% of body weight. In training, we do this in Earth gravity, which is 37% above standard. In combat conditions, we do it in hostile terrain, often for days at a time. The room fell silent. That is torture, Lenmora said flatly. That training would be classified as physical abuse under council regulations. On Earth, we call it basic training. Maya's expression remained neutral. And that is just the beginning. We train in temperature extremes from -40 to +50 Celsius. We train in water, in mountains, in deserts. We train while exhausted, injured, starving. We train until our bodies adapt or we quit. And those who quit? Admiral Drathar asked. Find other careers. But those who persist, who push through, who refuse to quit no matter how much it hurts. Maya smiled slightly. We become what you saw yesterday. What you are seeing now. Dr. Lenmora was reviewing more scan results. Her antennae were now completely still. This was a sign of deep concentration in her species. Your ability to process lactic acid is extraordinary. You should be able to maintain high-intensity output for, Admiral, I am reading endurance capability at least 4 times galactic standard. Humans used to hunt by persistence, Maya explained. We would chase prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. Could take hours, sometimes days. The animals we hunted were faster, stronger, better armed, but we could keep moving when they could not. We can still do it. Vex Talon pulled up a holographic file. According to the records, humans ran a test for council military candidates 6 years ago. The results were mediocre. How do you explain that? Who did you test? Maya asked. Your diplomatic corps provided candidates from your general population, as is standard procedure. Maya laughed, a short, sharp sound. General population. You tested civilians, office workers, people who take vehicles to travel 1 kilometer, people who think walking upstairs is exercise. She shook her head. Commander, the top 1% of human physical capability is not in the general population. It is in the military, and even then, not everyone. You are looking at the result of 10 years of intensive training, starting from an above-average baseline. Admiral Drathar stood. Then we need to test these claims properly. Lieutenant Cross, you will participate in the Standard Academy Combat Assessment, the one we use for advanced tactical candidates. Her crystal features reflected the medical bay's lights. Fair warning, the failure rate is approximately 40%. Most species produce candidates who can pass, but it is never easy. I am ready, Admiral. We begin immediately. The Advanced Combat Assessment took place in the Academy's main tactical arena. It was a huge dome that could simulate any environment from frozen tundra to volcanic hellscapes. A crowd had gathered in the observation galleries. Word of the humans' medical results had spread quickly. Cadet Tornval stood with his squad, watching the preparations below. His scales had returned to their normal blue shade, but his expression remained troubled. His second-in-command, a thoughtful Corthian named Petra Cole, noticed his distraction. Still bothered by yesterday? She asked. She made me look like a hatchling, Tornval muttered, in front of everyone. She offered to train us, Petra pointed out. That is not the action of someone looking to embarrass. That is respect. Or pity. Your pride is showing, Torn. Petra's voice was gentle but firm. She is right, you know. You are sloppy when you are confident. We all are. We have never had to face something faster than us before. Tornvald's mouth parts clicked in reluctant agreement. Below, Lieutenant Cross was being briefed on the assessment protocols. She looked small compared to the combat specialists running the test. Almost fragile. But Tornvald had seen what those hands could do. Think she will pass? He asked. Petra considered. I think we are about to learn something important about humans. The assessment began. Phase 1 was a pure combat simulation. 3 opponents, advanced combat drones programmed with the fighting patterns of elite council soldiers. Most candidates struggled to defeat even one. The drones moved with mechanical precision. Their reaction times measured in milliseconds. Maya faced them in the center of a simulated urban environment. She was armed with a standard-issue combat staff. No firearms, no advanced weapons. Just her and 3 very dangerous machines. The first drone attacked with a Velcrin-style rush. It closed the distance in a blur of motion. Maya did not try to match its speed. Instead, she dropped low, letting it overshoot. She struck at its knee joint as it passed. The drone stumbled. Its programming was momentarily confused by the unexpected tactic. The second and third drones worked together. They attacked from different angles at the same time. This was where most candidates fell. You could not watch 2 directions at once. Maya did not try to watch both. She listened. The drone's motors made distinct sounds when they committed to an attack. Different sounds for different strikes. Maya's head tilted slightly, processing the sound information. She moved before the attacks landed. A roll, a pivot, a strike to vulnerable joints and sensor arrays. The observers in the gallery leaned forward. This was not normal fighting. It was something else. Efficient, brutal, effective. Within 90 seconds, all 3 drones lay disabled. Phase 1 complete, announced the assessment overseer, a veteran Shirel named Commander Caxneal. His voice carried a note of surprise. Time. 1 minute, 37 seconds. That is a new record. Admiral Drathar said nothing, but her compound eyes tracked every movement with intense focus. Phase 2 was endurance testing. Candidates had to traverse a 10-kilometer course through hostile terrain while under fire from automated defense systems. The average completion time was 45 minutes. Anything under 30 was considered exceptional. Maya completed it in 18 minutes. She did not run the entire way. She paced herself, moving with machine-like efficiency. She found the best path. She used terrain and cover in ways the programmers had not expected. When the automated defenses fired, she was already somewhere else. When obstacles appeared, she adapted without hesitation. Her route planning is extraordinary, Commander Vextalon observed. She is reading the terrain like a tactical computer. Humans are pattern recognition specialists, said Dr. Len Mora, who had been monitoring Maya's vital signs. But this is beyond standard capability. Look at her heart rate. It is barely elevated. She is treating this like a casual exercise. Phase 3 tested strategic thinking. A hostage rescue scenario with multiple hostile elements and civilian casualties to avoid. Most candidates took 15 to 20 minutes to plan their approach. Maya started moving after 40 seconds. She is not thinking it through, someone in the gallery protested. But Maya was thinking. She was just thinking faster. Years of tactical training, thousands of hours of simulations. Real combat experience from Earth's various regional conflicts. It all came together in her mind like a complex equation solving itself. She breached, neutralized threats, secured hostages, and escaped before the assessment timer hit 6 minutes. Impossible, Commander Caxneal said flatly. The simulation is not designed to be completed that quickly. There are mandatory time gates. She bypassed them, another observer noted, reviewing the tactical replay. Look, she used the civilians as mobile cover. That forced the hostile computer to adjust its fire protocols. That created gaps in the defense pattern. That is a war crime, someone objected. No, Admiral Drathar corrected quietly. It is tactics. Brutal, efficient, and technically legal. She never put the civilians in direct danger. She simply used the enemy's programmed restrictions against them. The Admiral's mouth parts spread slightly. Clever. The final phase was the nightmare scenario. Full combat simulation against an elite enemy force in a deteriorating tactical situation. Candidates had to hold a defensive position against overwhelming odds while protecting a vital asset. The test was designed to measure how long someone could last under pressure. The record was 17 minutes before tactical collapse. Maya held for 43. When the simulation finally ended, not from her failure, but because the assessment overseer terminated it, Maya stood in the center of a virtual battlefield littered with disabled enemy units. Her avatar was wounded, exhausted, running on fumes, but she was still standing. The observation gallery erupted. Tornval stared at the tactical display. His mind struggled to process what he had just witnessed. "That is not possible," he whispered. "Nobody can maintain that level of performance under that much stress. Her decision-making should have gotten worse. She should have made mistakes." "She did make mistakes," Petra said, replaying part of the sequence. "There, she exposed her left flank. There, she missed an optimal firing solution. But she compensated so quickly, adapted so smoothly, that the mistakes never became fatal. It is like watching someone play a musical instrument. Individual notes might be imperfect, but the overall performance is flawless." In the arena below, medical staff had surrounded Maya. They were checking her condition. She waved them off with obvious impatience, though Dr. Lenmora insisted on at least a basic scan. Admiral Drathar descended from the observation deck. Her movements were deliberate and controlled. The gathered crowd parted before her automatically. "Lieutenant Cross," the Admiral said formally, "you have completed the advanced tactical assessment with the highest scores ever recorded in this facility's history. I am formally noting this in your permanent record and recommending you for immediate evaluation as an Academy combat instructor." Maya saluted. The human gesture looked slightly odd among the various species-specific acknowledgments. "Thank you, Admiral. But with respect, I would like to continue with the cadet training program I mentioned. Teaching is more useful than setting records." "You have proven your point," Drathar said. "The Council will have to revise their assessment of human capabilities. You have done what you came here to do." "Have I?" Maya pointed toward the observation galleries, where hundreds of cadets and instructors watched with varying expressions of shock, awe, and doubt. "I have shown what one human can do under controlled conditions. That is not the same as proving humans can contribute meaningfully to the Council's defense forces. For that, I need to teach. I need to show that our methods, our approach to warfare, our training doctrine can enhance what you already have." The training facility that Maya took over was normally used for environmental adaptation courses. This made it perfect for her purposes. It could simulate extreme temperatures, variable gravity, and atmospheric conditions ranging from vacuum to toxic soup. The Academy's maintenance staff had spent 2 days programming the new parameters, while Maya carefully developed her curriculum. Commander Vex Talon reviewed the training schedule with growing concern. "Lieutenant, this plan is ambitious." "It is necessary," Maya replied, manipulating the holographic timeline. "We only have 5 days before the Admiral wants preliminary results. That means condensing months of training into hell-week intensity." "That terminology concerns me." "It should." Maya pulled up medical protocols. Dr. Lenmora and her staff will monitor all participants continuously. Any sign of serious injury or dangerous stress levels, we pull them immediately. I am pushing limits, not breaking students. Tornval and his squad arrived early on the first morning. This was both enthusiasm and anxiety. The young Velcrin's scales had taken on a determined dark blue shade. "Instructor," he said formally, "squad reporting for training." Maya surveyed the gathered cadets. Tornval's squad consisted of 6 members: himself, Petra Cole the Corthian, a wiry Shirelle named Danny Swift, 2 humans named Kate Murphy and Ryan Blake from Earth's own Academy candidates, and a hulking Drexian called Marcus Kane, who stood nearly 3 meters tall. "Good. You are all here." Maya checked her datapad. "Over the next 5 days, you are going to learn the core principles of human military doctrine. We do not have time for you to build the physical capabilities I demonstrated, but we can teach you the mindset, the tactics, the refusal to accept defeat." She paused. "Fair warning, this will be the hardest 5 days of your academy career. Some of you will want to quit. That is fine. The door is always open. But if you stay all the way through. No half measures." "What exactly will we be doing?" Kate Murphy asked. As a human, she was theoretically familiar with Earth training methods, but her expression suggested uncertainty. Day 1, endurance and pain management. Day 2, tactical adaptation under pressure. Day 3, team cohesion through shared adversity. Day 4, creative problem solving with limited resources. Day 5, full combat simulation incorporating everything learned. Maya smiled slightly. "Today, we run." "Run?" Marcus Kane's deep voice rumbled. "Drexians do not run, instructor. We are not built for sustained locomotion." "Then today you learn how," Maya said simply. "Everyone standard Academy PT gear. Meet back here in 5 minutes." When they returned, Maya had changed into a fitted exercise uniform designed for mobility rather than protection. She led them to the facility's main track, a 1-kilometer loop with variable terrain and adjustable gravity. "Standard gravity for now," Maya said. "We will adjust as needed for species differences. The goal is not raw speed, it is endurance. We are going to run, together as a squad, for 1 hour. Whatever pace Marcus can maintain, that is our pace. Nobody gets left behind." 1 hour? Danny Swift's compound eyes gleamed with what might have been amusement. "Instructor, Shirelle metabolism can sustain high activity for 6 hours easily. This will be simple." "Then you will have plenty of energy left to encourage your squad mates," Maya said. "Because if anyone stops, everyone stops. And we start the timer over." That changed the dynamic immediately. Suddenly, this was not an individual test, but a collective challenge. They began running. For the first 10 minutes, it seemed almost easy. Marcus's lumbering pace was not particularly fast. Most of the squad had no trouble matching it. But as minutes stretched into quarter hours, the reality of sustained exertion began to show. Kate Murphy was sweating heavily by minute 20. Her breathing was labored. Ryan Blake had developed a slight limp, an old injury apparently aggravated by the repetitive motion. Even Tornval, with his species' legendary speed, was finding that endurance was different from sprint capability. "This is stupid," Marcus gasped at the 30-minute mark. "We are just going in circles. What is the point?" "The point," Maya said, running easily alongside them despite having already completed 3 hours of her own training that morning, "is learning that your body's first warning is not your actual limit. It is just your survival instinct trying to conserve energy. Real limits come much later." "My muscles are screaming," Petra said through gritted teeth. "Then they are talking," Maya replied. "Listen, acknowledge, then ignore. Pain is information, not a command." At 45 minutes, Ryan Blake collapsed. The squad stopped immediately, per Maya's rules. Cannot, Ryan panted. Ankle is done. Sorry. Maya knelt beside him. Her fingers probed the joint with practiced efficiency. Swollen but not serious. You can continue. I just said I cannot. No, you said your ankle is done. Different statement. Maya looked him in the eyes. Ryan, you are human. Your ancestors ran down prey animals for dozens of kilometers. You have the same genetics they did, the same capability. You just need to remember how to access it. That was thousands of years ago. Genetics do not change that fast. The capability is still there. Maya stood, offering her hand. Squad, new rule. Ryan cannot put full weight on that ankle, so we are going to support him. Marcus on one side, Tornval on the other. Share his weight, keep moving. They stared at her in disbelief. You are making us carry him? Tornval asked. I am making you function as a unit. In real combat, people get hurt, equipment fails, plans fall apart. You adapt or you die. This is just practice. Maya gestured. Move. The last 15 minutes were agony. Marcus nearly quit twice. Petra did quit, stopping completely at minute 53 before Tornval literally dragged her forward. Kate Murphy was crying quietly, though she never stopped moving. Danny Swift, who had been so confident at the start, was barely maintaining the slow shuffle that passed for their running pace. When the timer finally hit 60 minutes, the entire squad collapsed. Maya let them rest for exactly 3 minutes, then started the next exercise. On your feet. Time for strength training. The groans were universal and multilingual. By midday, every member of the squad had discovered muscles they did not know existed. The afternoon brought tactical scenarios in the simulation chambers. Straightforward combat situations complicated by Maya's insistence that they solve problems without using their species' natural advantages. Tornval, you cannot use your speed. Petra, no relying on your armor. Danny, you are blind for this exercise. Maya watched their confusion with patient understanding. In real combat, your advantages will fail. Terrain, injury, equipment malfunction, environmental factors. You need to be dangerous even when you are compromised. The scenarios were brutal, not in their combat difficulty, but in their psychological pressure. Maya forced them to operate while exhausted, injured, confused. She introduced time limits, resource constraints, and moral dilemmas. She made them fail repeatedly and then forced them to try again. By evening, the squad was physically and mentally drained. Maya gathered them in the facility's rest area, where Dr. Len Mora had set up mobile medical stations. Day 1 complete, Maya announced. Medical check for everyone, then you are dismissed until 0500 tomorrow. We barely survived today, Marcus said. His massive frame slumped in exhaustion. And there are 4 more days? 4 more days, Maya confirmed. Each one harder than the last. Anyone want to quit now? Silence. Stubborn, proud silence. Maya smiled. Good. That is what I wanted to hear. Now get checked out and get some rest. Tomorrow we start tactical adaptation. As the squad dispersed for medical screening, Commander Vex Talon approached Maya. I have been monitoring from the command center. Your methods are aggressive. They are effective, Maya countered. Look at them, Commander. They have already started functioning as a unit rather than individuals. They are learning to push past their perceived limits. That is day 1 progress. They are also exhausted and hurting. Yes, and tomorrow they will be exhausted and hurting and still have to perform. That is the lesson. Maya pulled up performance metrics on her datapad. Tornval's strategic thinking improved 30% in the afternoon scenarios once he could not rely on speed. Petra discovered she could coordinate group tactics better than anyone expected. Marcus found leverage techniques that compensated for his species' mobility limitations. They are adapting. Vex Talon studied the data. The human cadets performed worse than expected. because they came in overconfident. Kate and Ryan assumed human training would give them an advantage. Instead, they learned that Earth military training is specifically designed to break that kind of confidence. Now they are rebuilding on a proper foundation. Maya looked at the commander. Everyone starts this journey from a different place. What matters is whether they finish it having grown. The second day began before dawn with a deliberate disorientation exercise. Maya had the facility's environmental controls simulate complete darkness while introducing random auditory distractions. Navigate to the objective coordinates using only tactical sense and squad communication, she instructed. You have 30 minutes. Begin. The squad fumbled through the darkness, literally and figuratively. Without their usual sensory advantages, they had to rely entirely on verbal coordination and spatial awareness. It was chaos. It was also exactly what Maya wanted. "Louder!" she called out as they whispered uncertainly to each other. In real combat, you cannot be afraid of giving away position if your squad does not know where you are. Tactical communication means being heard despite the noise. Gradually, they adapted. Tornvald's natural leadership emerged as he began directing movement. Petra's methodical thinking created a systematic search pattern. Danny's compound eyes, though not designed for complete darkness, could still detect heat signatures and air currents, which he translated into navigation guidance. They reached the objective with 40 seconds remaining. "Again," Maya said. "Half the time limit. Adapt." By noon, they could navigate the scenario in 7 minutes. Day 3 was team cohesion, through what Maya called shared suffering. The squad was given a series of tasks that were physically impossible for individuals, but achievable through cooperation. Moving objects too heavy for even Marcus alone, solving puzzles that required simultaneous actions from multiple positions, defending locations where success demanded perfect coordination. The exercises were designed to break down the natural hierarchies and prejudices that separated species. When your survival depends on the person next to you, their biological classification becomes irrelevant. Tornvald found himself dependent on Kate Murphy's smaller size to access tight spaces. Marcus learned to trust Danny's aerial reconnaissance despite his natural Drexian skepticism of little flyers. Petra discovered that Ryan's injured ankle made him an excellent stationary coordinator, seeing patterns from his position that mobile fighters missed. They stopped being individuals. They became a squad. Day 4 introduced resource scarcity and creative problem-solving. Maya gave them combat scenarios with deliberately insufficient ammunition, failing equipment, and incomplete intelligence. "Warfare is about doing more with less," she explained. "Humans learned this early. We were not the biggest predators. We were not the fastest or strongest, but we could make a sharp rock into a spear, a stick into a lever, fire into a weapon. We could innovate." The scenarios forced the squad to think laterally. When their weapons ran dry, they used environmental hazards against enemies. When communications failed, they developed hand signals and movement codes. When their position was overrun, they turned retreat into ambush. They were learning to be dangerous with nothing but their minds. By day 5, the squad looked different. They moved together instinctively. They communicated with minimal words. They adapted to challenges with practiced efficiency. The individual talents that had defined them at the start were still there, but now they were integrated into something larger. The final combat simulation was brutal. Maya programmed an evolving tactical situation with no clear victory condition, just increasingly difficult waves of enemies and complications. The goal was not to win. It was to survive as long as possible while achieving secondary objectives. The squad lasted 47 minutes before tactical collapse. It was the third highest score ever recorded for a cadet squad. When the simulation ended, the squad stood together in the center of the virtual battlefield, breathing hard but standing. Maya approached them with something like pride showing through her usually neutral expression. 47 minutes, she said, against a scenario designed to defeat veteran special operations units. You should be proud. We failed, Tornval said, though his voice lacked real conviction. You survived long enough to complete 6 secondary objectives and evacuate 70% of simulated civilians. Most squads get 3 objectives and maybe 40% evacuations. You did not fail. You exceeded expectations. Maya looked at each of them in turn. 5 days ago, you were individuals with potential. Now you are a squad with capability. That is what this week was about. The council chambers on the station called Galactic Hub Prime were designed to hold representatives from 47 species at the same time. This meant they were vast, complex, and always politically charged. Maya had never expected to be summoned here. She was a lieutenant, a trainer, not a diplomat. Yet here she stood, in dress uniform, waiting to brief the Military Oversight Committee on her training program's results. Ambassador Lisa Grant met her outside the chamber, Earth's senior representative to the council. The older woman looked tired, her sharp features drawn with stress. Lieutenant Cross, thank you for coming on short notice. Ma'am, I was not aware I had a choice, Maya replied carefully. Grant smiled without humor. You did not, but politeness costs nothing. She pointed toward the chamber doors. I need to brief you quickly. The committee is divided on your program. Some species see it as a valuable enhancement to academy training. Others see it as humanity trying to impose its culture on council military doctrine. That is not what we are doing, Maya said firmly. I know. You know. But politics is not about truth, Lieutenant. It is about perception and influence. Grant pulled up a holographic display showing committee composition. The Velcrin delegation is supportive, mostly because Primus Tornval's son has spoken highly of your training. The Corthians are cautiously optimistic. The Shirel are interested but want more data. The Drexians are skeptical but open to discussion. And the opposition? The ruling caste, primarily. They are the Council's oldest military species, and they do not appreciate being told their training methods are insufficient. Grant's expression hardened. Their lead representative, Magistrate Velshara, has been working behind the scenes to discredit your program. She has argued that human training is psychologically damaging, potentially abusive, and fundamentally incompatible with Council values. Maya felt anger simmer but kept it controlled. Does she have evidence? Selective data and emotional appeals. She is good at politics. Grant met Maya's eyes. You need to be better. This briefing is not just about your training program. It is about whether humanity gets taken seriously in Council military affairs or gets pushed back into irrelevance. Understood, ma'am? They entered the chamber together. The Military Oversight Committee consisted of 15 representatives, each positioned in species-appropriate seating that made the chamber look like a bizarre cross between an amphitheater and an art installation. Magistrate Velshara occupied the ruling caste position. Her crystal form refracted the chamber's lights into rainbow patterns. Admiral Drathar was present as well, representing the Academy's interests. She gave Maya a barely visible nod of encouragement. Lieutenant Maya Cross, Earth Defense Forces, announced the committee's Shrell chairperson, Coordinator Zelnath. You are here to brief this committee on the unauthorized modification of Academy training protocols and the results thereof. Unauthorized? Maya kept her voice neutral. Admiral Drathar approved my training program. The Admiral has authority over Academy operations, Magistrate Velshara interjected. Her voice was like crystal chimes. She does not have authority to fundamentally alter training doctrine without committee oversight. Your program falls into the latter category. I disagree, Admiral Drathar said calmly. Lieutenant Cross was invited to demonstrate human training methods as part of our ongoing effort to incorporate best practices from member species. This is standard Academy procedure. Standard procedure does not involve subjecting cadets to what multiple medical reports have classified as torture-adjacent conditions, Velshara countered. She projected medical data onto the chamber's shared displays. Prolonged physical stress beyond safe parameters. Psychological pressure designed to induce breakdown. Scenarios specifically crafted to cause pain and exhaustion. These are not training methods. They are abuse. Maya watched her carefully curated program get dissected and misrepresented with clinical precision. Velshara was good at this. Twisting facts just enough to create a damning narrative without outright lying. "Magistrate," Maya said when given permission to speak, "may I address your concerns directly?" "You may attempt," Velshara replied, her tone dismissive. Maya activated her own data display, showing comparative results. "These are the performance metrics for my squad before and after the training program. Improvement in every measurable category. Tactical decision-making, team coordination, stress response, adaptive problem-solving, and combat effectiveness. Achieved through methods that would be illegal under Council anti-abuse statutes," Velshara countered. "No. Achieved through voluntary training with continuous medical oversight and immediate intervention protocols for anyone exceeding safe limits." Maya pulled up medical logs. Dr. Len Mora monitored every participant throughout the program. 0 permanent injuries, 0 psychological trauma markers. Multiple participants have requested continuation of the training because they have been conditioned to accept abuse as normal, Velshara suggested. This is a recognized pattern in trauma victims. Maya felt her patience thin. "Magistrate, with respect, you are describing military training as if it is a day spa. All effective combat training involves stress, discomfort, and pushing past perceived limits. That is true regardless of species. The only difference is degree and methodology." "A significant difference," Velshara insisted. "Council training doctrine is designed around sustainable development and species-appropriate progression. Your methods ignore these principles entirely. My methods recognize that warfare does not respect species-appropriate limitations," Maya shot back. "An enemy does not care if you are exhausted or injured or scared. They care if you are effective. I trained my squad to be effective under the worst possible conditions. That is not abuse. That is preparation." Coordinator Zelnath raised a limb for silence. "Lieutenant Cross, you make a logical argument, but the magistrate raises an equally valid concern about means versus ends. Can you definitively state that your training methods do not cause lasting harm?" "I can state that every participant was monitored by qualified medical staff and showed no signs of lasting harm. I can state that post-training psychological evaluations showed improved confidence and capability. I can state that the participating cadets consistently report positive outcomes." Maya paused. "But if you are asking for absolute guarantees, then no training method can provide that. All training involves risk. The question is whether the benefits justify those risks." "And you believe they do?" asked a Korthian representative, General Morkan. "I know they do, General, because I have seen the alternative. I have seen soldiers die because they were not prepared for the reality of combat. I have seen units collapse under pressure because they never learned to function in chaos. The price of inadequate training is not just failed assessments. It is lives lost in situations where better preparation could have saved them." The chamber fell silent for a moment. "The human speaks from emotion," Velshara said dismissively. "But we must make decisions based on policy and principle, not anecdotal military experience." "Then let us look at policy," Ambassador Grant interjected, stepping forward. "Magistrate, you have argued that human training methods violate Council standards, but the Council's own charter explicitly recognizes that member species retain sovereignty over their military doctrines. Earth is not imposing our methods on anyone. We are offering to share them with interested parties. That is cooperation, not imperialism. Cooperation requires mutual respect, Velshara countered. The implication of your program is that council methods are inadequate. The implication of your opposition, Grant replied smoothly, is that you are threatened by the idea that other species might have valuable contributions to make, which raises questions about your commitment to the Council's founding principles of mutual benefit and shared knowledge. Velshara's crystal form shimmered with what might have been anger. You dare suggest— I suggest nothing, Grant interrupted. I simply point out that the Council has successfully integrated techniques from dozens of species over the centuries. Velcrin speed training protocols, Corthian armor tactics, Shirel bio-integration methods. Why is human endurance training suddenly unacceptable when all these other innovations were welcomed? The question hung in the air, uncomfortable and pointed. General Morcon, the Corthian representative, spoke carefully. The ambassador makes a fair point. We have historically been open to tactical innovation from member species. The human program is unorthodox, certainly, but so were Shirel methods when first introduced. Many species considered biological enhancement to be fundamentally wrong. The situations are not comparable, Velshara insisted. Why not? Maya asked directly. Magistrate, I think the real issue here is not about training methods or medical safety. It is about politics. Earth is new to the Council. We are supposed to be quiet, grateful, and deferential. Instead, we are proving we have capabilities that challenge existing hierarchies. That makes you uncomfortable. You overstep, Lieutenant, Velshara said coldly. Maybe, but I am also right. Maya looked around the chamber at the assembled representatives. For 6 years, Earth has been treated like a junior member. We have accepted patrol assignments and support roles while our capabilities were dismissed based on a flawed initial assessment. We did not complain because we were trying to be good Council citizens. But now, there is a real threat coming. The Varen Collective is mobilizing for war, and suddenly our training methods and tactical approaches might be useful. So the question is not whether human methods meet your comfort standards. The question is whether the Council can afford to reject any advantage when a shooting war is on the horizon. Coordinator Zelnath's antennae twitched thoughtfully. The lieutenant raises a valid strategic concern. The Varen situation does require us to prioritize effectiveness over tradition. I disagree, Velshara said firmly. Compromising our principles in the name of expediency is a dangerous precedent. If we accept human training methods despite their questionable ethics, what else will we accept? Where does the line get drawn? The line, Admiral Drathar said, her voice carrying the weight of decades of command experience, gets drawn at actual harm versus theoretical discomfort. I have reviewed every aspect of Lieutenant Cross's program. It pushes boundaries, yes. It challenges assumptions, absolutely. But it does not cross into abuse or permanent damage. The medical evidence is clear. The psychological assessments are conclusive. The performance improvements are undeniable. You are biased, Velshara accused. You approved the program. You have a vested interest in defending it. I have a vested interest in effective military training, Drathar corrected. And I have 40 years of experience in identifying what works versus what merely looks good in committee meetings. Lieutenant Cross's methods work. That should matter more than your political discomfort with Earth's rising prominence. The magistrate's crystal form pulsed with light, a sign of extreme agitation. This committee should vote to discontinue the human training program and censure both Admiral Drathar and Lieutenant Cross for implementing unauthorized modifications to Academy doctrine. Motion noted, Coordinator Zelnath said. Does anyone second? Silence. Even the representatives who had seemed sympathetic to Velshara's arguments remained quiet. The combination of Maya's performance data, Grant's political maneuvering, and Drathar's institutional authority had shifted the room's dynamics. After a long moment, Velshara spoke again, her tone ice-cold. Very well. If this committee chooses to ignore proper oversight protocols, I cannot stop you. But know this, the ruling caste will be watching human military activities closely. Any evidence of actual harm, any indication of abusive practices, and we will pursue formal charges through the council judiciary. That is your right, Grant said neutrally, just as it is Earth's right to share our military expertise with willing partners. The committee meeting continued for another hour, establishing formal parameters for human training consultants, defining oversight requirements, setting up assessment protocols. Maya answered technical questions, clarified methodologies, and carefully navigated the political minefield of interspecies cooperation. By the time she was dismissed, she was mentally exhausted in a way that 5 days of Hell Week had never achieved. Ambassador Grant found her afterward in a quiet corridor outside the chambers. "You did well in there," Grant said. "Better than I expected, honestly. Most junior officers would have folded under Velshara's pressure. I have dealt with bureaucratic hostility before, ma'am. Different species, same dynamics." Maya allowed herself a tired smile. "Though I probably could have been more diplomatic." "Diplomacy is overrated when you are right and can prove it." Grant studied her thoughtfully. "You understand what just happened in there, do you not? This was not really about your training program. It was about Earth's position in the Council's military hierarchy. I figured that out, yes. And now we have won a battle, which means we need to be prepared for the war." Grant's expression turned serious. "Velshara is not going to give up. The ruling caste has held dominant military influence for centuries. They see humanity as a threat to that dominance. They will look for any opportunity to discredit us, to prove we are dangerous or unstable, or not worthy of equal standing." "What do you need from me?" Maya asked. "Keep doing exactly what you are doing. Train cadets, demonstrate competence, build relationships with other species." Grant paused. "And be careful. Politics at this level can be deadly. Not metaphorically, literally. We are not dealing with strongly worded memos anymore." "Understood, ma'am." 3 months after Maya's testimony before the Military Oversight Committee, the Viren Collective launched its offensive. 17 border systems came under attack at the same time. They overwhelmed Council defense forces through sheer coordinated aggression. The war everyone had feared was here. The Academy shifted to wartime protocols immediately. Training programs accelerated. Cadets who were months from graduation received early commissions, and Maya's expanded human tactical training program suddenly became mandatory for all combat track students. "We need every advantage," Admiral Drathar had said grimly. "Human methods work. We are implementing them fleet-wide." Maya stood in the main briefing hall addressing 300 cadets from across the galaxy. Her original squad, Tornval, Petra, Danny, Ryan, Kate, and Marcus, stood beside her as assistant instructors. Each had proven their capability to teach as well as execute human tactical doctrine. "The Viren Collective fights with overwhelming force," Maya explained. "Tactical displays showed the enemy's advance. They hit hard and fast, using numerical superiority to crush resistance before reinforcements arrive. Standard Council doctrine focuses on defensive formations and measured response. That worked when facing conventional threats, but the Viren are not conventional." She pulled up combat footage from the first week of fighting. The images were grim. Council ships and ground forces being systematically destroyed by coordinated Viren assaults. "What you are looking at is the cost of predictability. The Viren studied our tactics, identified our patterns, and designed counter-strategies specifically to exploit them. They know how we fight. They know how we think, and they are using that knowledge to kill us." Maya paused, letting that sink in. "Human military philosophy has a response to this. We call it adaptive warfare. When the enemy knows your playbook, you write a new one. When they predict your moves, you do the unpredictable. When they expect you to fight fair, you cheat." A Velcrin cadet raised his clawed hand. Instructor, cheating violates the rules of engagement. No, it does not, Maya corrected. Cheating means using every legal tactical advantage available, even if it feels dishonorable. It means fighting smart instead of fighting fair. The Varen do not care about your honor. They care about winning. If you want to survive, you need to care about winning more. Over the next weeks, Maya and her assistant instructors pushed the entire academy through condensed versions of their training program. Not everyone could handle the full intensity. Species with fragile biology received modified protocols, but everyone learned the core principles: endurance, adaptability, creative tactical thinking, refusal to accept defeat. The results were immediate and measurable. Graduates from the new program performed 30% better in combat simulations. More importantly, they survived longer in actual combat. The first real test came when Tornval received his commission and assignment. He was sent to the front lines as a squad leader. His squad consisted of graduates from Maya's program, representing 5 different species. The mission was straightforward. Hold a supply depot against Varan assault forces long enough for evacuation. Standard defensive operation. The tactical computers predicted they would hold for approximately 4 hours before being overrun. Tornval's squad held for 11 hours. They used every trick Maya had taught them. When ammunition ran low, they improvised explosives from fuel cells. When communications were jammed, they coordinated through prearranged signals. When their defensive position was compromised, they turned the breach into a kill zone. They adapted. They innovated. They refused to quit. By the time reinforcements arrived, the squad had inflicted casualties at a 3-to-1 ratio despite being outnumbered 5-to-1. It was a tactical victory that should have been impossible. The after-action report reached Maya 2 days later. She read it alone in her quarters, feeling a complex mix of pride and concern. Pride because her training had worked. Concern because Tornval's success meant more squads would be sent into similar situations. More students would face real combat. More of them would die. War was not a training exercise. The stakes were life and death. A knock on her door interrupted her thoughts. Petra Cole entered, looking tired. She had just returned from her own deployment. A raid on a Varen logistics hub that had gone sideways when enemy reinforcements arrived early. "We lost 3 people," Petra said without preamble. "Danny Swift was one of them." Maya felt the words hit like a physical blow. Danny, the cheerful Shirelle who had been so confident on day 1 of Hell Week. Who had learned to navigate in darkness and coordinate aerial reconnaissance. Who had become a skilled instructor himself. "What happened?" Maya asked quietly. "He was covering our retreat. The Varen caught him in a crossfire. He knew it was a kill zone. He went anyway because someone had to buy us time." Petra's voice was steady, but her eyes showed the weight of loss. "He saved 17 lives, including mine." They sat in silence for a moment. "He would not have made that choice before your training," Petra finally said. "Before he would have retreated with us. Maybe we all would have died. Instead, he understood tactical sacrifice. He chose to be the one who stayed." She looked at Maya. "Is that what you wanted? When you taught us to never quit? To always find a way to win?" Maya met her eyes. "I wanted you to survive. All of you. But survival in war sometimes means sacrifice. Danny understood that. He made his choice. It was the right choice tactically. But that does not make it easy to accept." "No," Petra agreed. "It does not." Over the following months, the war ground on. The Varen advance slowed as Council forces adapted to their tactics. Human-trained squads became highly sought after. Their survival rates were 40% higher than standard units. Their mission success rates were even more impressive. But success came at a cost. More students died. More families received notifications. The Academy's memorial wall grew longer with each passing week. Maya found herself walking that wall late one night, reading names of students she had trained. Some she had known well, others barely at all, but each represented a life cut short. A potential unfulfilled. Second-guessing yourself? Admiral Drathar's voice came from behind her. Maya turned. The old Shirel warrior looked as tired as Maya felt. Should I be? Probably. Any instructor who sends students to war and does not question their methods is a fool or a psychopath. Drathar moved to stand beside her, studying the memorial. But questioning is not the same as being wrong. Your training saves lives. The statistics prove it. The fact that trained soldiers still die does not negate that. Danny Swift died. He was one of my first students. I knew him. I know. I knew him too. Good cadet. Better officer. The Admiral's compound eyes reflected the memorial's light. He died doing his duty, saving his squad. That is what warriors do. You taught him to be an effective warrior. You did not make him reckless or suicidal. You made him capable. What he did with that capability was his choice. Maya nodded slowly. I know. Intellectually, I know. But emotionally you are human. You feel responsibility for those you train. That is good. It means you care. But do not let that care paralyze you. The war is not over. More students need training. Your methods work. Keep teaching. After the Admiral left, Maya remained at the memorial for a while longer. Then she returned to her quarters and began preparing the next day's curriculum. Because Drathar was right. The war was not over. More students needed training, and Maya Cross would train them to survive. 6 months into the war, the tide began to turn. The Viren Collective's initial momentum had been stopped. Council forces, now incorporating human tactical doctrine across all units, were pushing back. Slowly, carefully, but advancing. The breakthrough came during the Battle of Kepler Station. A major Viren fleet had surrounded the station, preparing for a siege that would starve out the defenders. Standard doctrine said to evacuate and abandon the position. It was not worth the casualties to hold. But the station's commander, a Korthian who had graduated from Maya's program, saw another option. Instead of defending passively, the station's forces launched a surprise offensive. They used small, fast ships to harass the Viren fleet, drew them out of position. Then the main Council reinforcement fleet, which the Viren thought was still days away, dropped out of hyperspace and caught the enemy in a devastating crossfire. It was a gamble, a creative, unpredictable tactical decision that violated every rule in the Council military handbook. It was also brilliantly effective. The Viren fleet was destroyed with minimal Council casualties. When asked to explain his decision, the commander's response was simple. I learned from a human instructor. She taught me that predictability is death. So I did what the enemy would not predict. The victory at Kepler Station changed everything. Suddenly, Council commanders across the theater were taking calculated risks, being unpredictable, fighting like humans fought, and winning. 3 months later, the Viren Collective requested a ceasefire. Their advance had been stopped, their fleets had been battered, their initial tactical advantage had been completely negated by the Council's adoption of adaptive warfare doctrine. The war was not over, but the immediate crisis had passed. Maya stood on the Academy's observation deck, looking out at the ships coming and going. The Academy was returning to normal operations, though normal now included mandatory human tactical training for all students. Tornval found her there. His scales had darkened with age and experience. He looked older than his years. War did that. Instructor, he said, the title now a term of respect rather than formal rank. I wanted to thank you. For what? For making me catch that scanner bolt, for embarrassing me in front of everyone, for pushing me beyond what I thought were my limits. Tornval gestured at the ships outside. I am alive because of what you taught me. My entire squad is alive. Petra, Marcus, Kate, Ryan, all of us survived because we knew how to adapt, how to persist, how to refuse defeat. Danny did not survive, Maya said quietly. No, he did not. But he died well, doing what warriors do, protecting his squad. Tornvald's mandibles clicked softly. He would not have wanted to die old and useless. He wanted to matter. You taught him how to matter. They stood in silence for a moment, watching the stars. What happens now? Tornvald finally asked. The war is winding down. You have proven everything you needed to prove. Will you return to Earth? Maya considered the question. 6 months ago, her answer would have been yes. Her mission was complete. Humanity's status in the Council had been firmly established. Earth's military capabilities were now recognized and respected. But things had changed. She had changed. I think I will stay, she said. There is more work to do. More students to train. The Council is safer now because different species learn to work together, to share their strengths, to cover each other's weaknesses. That is worth maintaining. Tornvald's scales shifted to a pleased blue-green. Good, because I requested assignment as your assistant instructor, if you will have me. Maya smiled. I will have you. But fair warning, I am going to make you run again. I know, Tornvald said with what might have been a laugh. I am ready. This time I will not complain at the 30-minute mark. We will see about that. As they left the observation deck together, Maya felt something she had not felt in months. Hope. Not the desperate hope of survival, but the quiet hope of building something lasting, something better. The galaxy was a dangerous place. Wars would come again. Threats would emerge. But now the Council had something it had not had before. A truly integrated military doctrine that combined the best of all member species. Velcrin speed, Corthian strength, Shirel adaptability, human endurance. Together, they were stronger than any single species could be alone. And that, Maya thought, was worth fighting for. The cadet had fired a scanner bolt at her. She had caught it mid-air and said, Earthborn, try harder. That moment had changed everything. Not just for her, not just for humanity, but for the entire Galactic Council. Sometimes all it took was one person refusing to accept limitations. One demonstration that what everyone thought was impossible was actually just difficult. One human showing the galaxy what persistence really meant. The rest was just training, adaptation, and the refusal to quit. And that, Maya had learned, was a lesson worth teaching to anyone willing to learn it.